Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch. And it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water, because it was made bitter. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice,
Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound.
Good day, brethren. I hope you're all well. I just want to thank you for all the giving and the prayers. Yes, and I also would like you to ask you to share these videos. It's very important that these videos go out to people and they will see it, they will hear, listen, and I tell you, people do get saved. And that can only be a contribution if you can share these videos. And please do watch the videos. You know, the average video on YouTube is just 5 minutes view time, and that's very, very bad. I can show you the analytics. It's just 5 minutes per video, even a 45-minute video, just 5 minutes. People just scroll through it, and yes. Yeah, so today I'm going to discuss Revelation 8:12. Revelation, a day that will be shortened to 16 hours. A 24-hour day will be shortened to 16 hours. And you ask, what? Yes, the day will be shortened to 16 hours. And Jesus said, personally, he said it in Matthew 24:22, unless those days were shortened, no one would survive. And Jesus also said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be again. Only a few will survive. And let me tell you, those that believe in a post-trib and a mid-trib, especially believers in Christ. You know, Revelation 13 says, the Antichrist calls all to receive that mark. No matter where you are hiding out, he is going to hunt you down. And you will not be alive by the end of Revelation, not Revelation, Matthew 24, where you all say, yes, that is the Jesus comes to after the tribulation. No, the book of Revelation describes three raptures. There are three raptures. You possibly are right, but only the grapes, the dead in Christ, the grape harvest, the dead in Christ will rise from the dead. That is at the Revelation 16:18. That is with the greatest earthquake ever. But these events is so dreadful, it is so fearful, it is so catastrophic that I tell you, as Revelation 6:17 said, who will be able to stand? No one will be able to stand there, not even the lead in the bunkers. And many of them even will die in the bunkers. You will have to survive Revelation 6, which is the sixth seal. You have to survive that sixth seal. Then you have to survive the nuclear world war. That is what you need to survive there. And you need to survive many meteorites. You have to survive category 5 hurricanes. And that's not just localized, that's all over the world. Globally, this will take place. The sixth seal is globally, not specifically one area. The tsunamis will be 200 feet high. 200, I don't know what's meters, feet, probably feet, 200 feet high, and that is huge. You can see, look at this skyscrapers here. And what the tsunamis do, where the rivers, those tsunamis will push inland, and it will even flow about 200 kilometers to 300 kilometers inwards, and you will not know where all the water comes from. Then you have to deal with the mountainous meteor that will fall, and this is what we will discuss today. Revelation 8:10 to Revelation 12. And I believe Revelation 8, the third trumpet and the fourth trumpet happen together, and I will explain that to you in a moment. Thank you. During the days of Noah, the great grandson of Enoch, Noah tells us only once of a specific time where we can measure the days annually based on solar years. It is very clear that after the flood, a year consisted of 360 days, and that was even before the flood. Enoch speaks of a calendar that the full year was 360 days, which is now called a biblical year. Evidence shows that before and after Noah's flood, for a period of time, there was a 360-day calendar. Now, the year consisted of 12 30-day months, equaling 360 days exactly. The chronology of the flood certainly seems to verify this. It is also evidenced by Deuteronomy 34:8 and 21:13 and Numbers 20:29, where mourning for the dead is ordered for a full month. That is 30 days, and it is carried on for 30 days. Enoch confirms this in the writings and describes the changes in the time it takes for the earth to orbit the sun. The lunar calendar would not be affected. Noah's flood, he says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month. Now, those days were described as months. It wasn't described as Nisan and Abib and I just forgot some of the month of Av and etc. The 17th day of the seventh month. We all know that each month was calculated by the new moon, Yeah, and that was the dark moon, and the very next day, that was the first day of the month. Now you count 17 days from the dark moon or the new moon, and that would be the 17th day then of the month. On that day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. I will also make a video of this one, what happened in the days of Noah, shortly. I'll make a video of that one too, and explain to you what happened in that day. Now, moving further, in the future, post-flood, we see that there comes a point where the calendar changes. We know that in the 8th century before Christ, the calendar changed globally, and I will discuss that in a moment. There is also historical evidence of the two sets of time that show this was indeed a factual event. What happened in the Bible that points to this point in time? We will see it in a minute. Now, Hezekiah in Isaiah described this. In Isaiah, we are told Hezekiah, king of Judah, who was ill and on his deathbed, the Lord tells Isaiah that Hezekiah is going to die and he needs to get his house in order, which Isaiah relays. Now, Hezekiah was very sick, and God spared his life by 15 years. We all know it. And do you know why God spared him? He turned to the wall and and he reminded God of his promises in, that is in Exodus 23, from verse 14 onwards, and you can go read it. 3 times the men of Israel had to go up to Jerusalem and honor God's feast. And God honored Hezekiah on his request, and he extended his life by 15 years. So now you know that Hezekiah's life was spared because he celebrated God's feast. And it could have been a 15th feast that he celebrated for that matter, because his life was extended by 15 years. Now Hezekiah asked the Lord to grant him more time. And that's just what I've been telling you. God tells Isaiah that he has heard as Hezekiah's prayer. Now, see what miracle taking place here. And that request I have not known anywhere asking God such a request, except as well Joshua could cause the sun to stand still. Okay, so here Isaiah said, this shall be the sign to you from the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he has spoken. Shall the shadow go forward? Then he actually asked Hezekiah, what would you want me to do? Would you want me to cause the shadow to go 10 steps forward or 10 steps backwards? So Hezekiah said, yeah, well, Lord, it's easy for you for a shadow to decline 10 steps. No, but let a shadow turn backwards 10 steps. Isaiah the prophet cried to the Lord and said, oh my Lord, this is a big request, probably what's going on in the mind of Isaiah. And and then God brought the shadow on the stairway back 10 steps, by which it had gone down on the stairway of Ahaz. That was Ahaz's sundial, and here is the sundial, and in the this is a sundial of Ahaz. And Hezekiah, he was laying in that bed at that time, and he got up and he saw the 10 steps standing back, and he believed this was Ahaz, that bad king Ahaz's sundial. And then he saw the sundial, the shadow going back 10 steps. Wow! And I will show him that he is going to lengthen his days by a miracle that actually turned back time, or where God himself lengthened the day of years. Hezekiah sees on the dial of King Ahaz where God turned it back 10 degrees. That was approximately 705 before Christ. And I'll describe that to you now in a minute. And he believes, Hezekiah believes. And Hezekiah went on to live for additional 15 years, also because he honored God's feast. And there are 7 promises when we honor God's feast. Yeah, and here then in 700, as I said, approximately 700 before Christ, the ancient Chinese astronomers recorded the sun, and listen, they were very good astronomers in those days, especially with the Mayan as well. Those lives in East, West America, the west of America. Of now Mexico, I think. Ancient Chinese astronomers recorded the sun rose and set twice in one day. The sun set, they saw themselves, and turned back twice back to the east, from the west back to the east again. And the sun rose twice and the sun set twice that day. That must have been awesome, you know. And we will see this in a coming tribulation is going to happen. You know, in Isaiah 24, it describes that God is going to turn the earth upside down. Listen, upside down. The sun will go yo-yo to the west, to the east, to the west. It says that the earth will be like a drunkard. And if you see a drunkard running, my friend, I tell you, that is how the earth will spin like a drunkard, and the sun will go to the east, to the north, to the west, like a drunkard. And listen, on that day, and just for those that keep on telling me, no one knows it. Don't switch off the video because I say it. No one knows the day or the hour. That day, you will not know the day and hour. Excuse me. And especially for the mid and the post-tribulars. I'm not going on with you. There are three, I believe there are three raptures. And I believe it is a fact, it is in the Bible. Now, 15 ancient calendars had 360 days, years, until they found 15 ancient calendars that had 360 days, day, year, until 705 before Christ. And then all of a sudden, something happened after this event of Hezekiah. Just after this event of Hezekiah, that's 5 years after this event, over the next 5 years, all adjusted the calendar to reflect a 365-year calendar. So it was approximately 705 before Christ that the calendar changed to a 365-day. Up till that time, it was 360 days and adjusted. So in other words, the earth slowed down. What it is actually, God turned the shadow backwards. So then it increased to that's more days. So it slowed down than the earth speed. But what will happen in this case, where in Revelation 8:12, we'll find out that the speed of the earth will increase. Okay, now it is hard for us to imagine events that can change the times, but they do happen. Recently, that was in 2011, the day was shortened by the 8, some say it was a 10 or 9, a 9 mega earthquake in Japan, when the earth rotation sped up by a microsecond. Now the difference in the earth's rotation around the sun to equate 5 less days in a year would be approximately 0.43 kilometers, or speed it up to 30.2 kilometers. We can already get the idea that the events spoken in the Bible will be catastrophic on a global scale, and that will be catastrophic indeed. And Jesus foretold the days would be shortened. That is in Matthew 24:22. For then shall the great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. People, listen to what Jesus is saying here. Listen to what the Lord is saying. Everybody is continuing their lives as if nothing will happen, as if everything is just going ahead. You're planning for your future, you're planning, yes, you can do that. But just remember what Jesus said, because people do not read the word. He says, and I'm repeating again, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. Not even Noah's days equal this. No ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. Jesus said, if he do not shorten the time for the elect, and that is the thing. He says for the elect's sake. Now, who is the elect? The elect is not the bride of Christ. No. Many people tell me, no, if the time will be shortened for us. No, there's no need to shorten the time for us, because we're not in the tribulation yet. He is going to shorten the time in the tribulation, and that happened from the fourth trumpet onwards. That happened. That will take us almost, say, 2 years 2 years into the tribulation, say for instance, if the tribulation happened 2020, then it will happen about early 2023. That may occur. Or you can take any date and you can calculate that. So from that time, the time will be shortened. And except those days shall be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. Listen, people, it's only a few, a remnant that remain. And that, of course, is the Jews that will flee to Petra and to the desert. There will be pockets upon the earth where God is going to protect certain people, but not all of you. And that actually, I believe, is the gleanings. It's only the gleanings that remain behind on the four corners of the earth when Jesus returned. Those people remain, and they will populate the heaven. And let me tell you, everyone that go into the millennium reign must be saved. Well, no unbeliever will go into the millennium. No Hindu, no Buddha, no Muslim go into the millennium reign. If you're not saved, my friend, the angels will take you away to the lake of fire. I'm telling you now. So be ready, get saved, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and you shall be saved. Yeah, Matthew 24, verse 21. Yeah, where in the scripture does Jesus mention this? And as I stated earlier, Revelation 8, the third trumpet and the fourth trumpet happened simultaneously, and I will explain this to you in a moment. Something similar happened in the days of Hezekiah. It must have been a heavenly object that flew by the earth and slowed the earth's speed, and therefore we had a 5-day extra in the year then. But in this case, the day will change from 24 hours a day to 16 hours a day. And you'll read it to you in a minute. It says, Revelation 12:13, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and night likewise. So what caused this event to happen? It didn't just happen all along on its own. And I believe it is this asteroid that they called Wormwood, and I just go to that part here now, here again, the Revelation 8:10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star, which is actually an asteroid. And possibly they will shoot this thing down as well, and pieces will land up in the pieces will fly all over the earth, and the dust of this asteroid will then fall into the third part of the rivers and upon the third part of the earth and upon the fountains of water. And Revelation 8:9 describes, and the name of the stars, as said, is called wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. People, it will not be nice. There won't even be hospitals for that time, and you have to suffer. And let me tell you, in those days, this coming days, you will not be able even, it will be a battle to die, so it will be an agony. Actually, death will be withheld from you, and many will die of the waters eventually. Eventually they will die. But even that will be an agony. You can read it yourself. The spirit of death is then on earth at that time, and he withhold death from you. And this is all because of this mountain that fell into the sea, and the dust of it, it lands upon the third part of the rivers. And this, I believe, happens simultaneously with the third and the fourth trumpet happen simultaneously. Both blow the trumpet at the same time, and the time is then shortened by a third part of the moon, of the sun, a third part of the moon, a third part of the stars. It's not an obstruction that causes it, but it's actually the earth then that will speed up. And what will happen here is that this wormwood, this asteroid, hits the earth at an angle, and that caused the earth to spin faster then. And that is, of course, what Jesus meant by that day, that he will shorten the days at that time, because no one will survive. So that's the part, and I hope you get the meaning of it and understand it very well. So the time of Daniel, you asked me, probably this is a question that you have in mind then. The days will not be affected, except that the days will be shortened to 16 hours, but the length of days remain the same of Daniel, the 1,260 days, the 1,290 days, and the 1,335 days until the rule of Christ. Those days is intact, although it is a 16-hour day then. Yeah. And it says here, I just want to explain to you that the tribulation is not 3.5 years as many of you perceive. It is not. You can argue till you blue. It is 7 years period, because the two witnesses rule for the first two, not rule, they will be on the earth for 1,260 days, 42 months. And I will give power to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. They were clothed in sackcloth, and then halfway into the middle of that, at midpoint, the abomination takes place, and he broke his covenant then to Israel. And of course that will be the false prophet that make that covenant, and not the Antichrist itself. You can see my videos why I say so. The woman then fled into the desert. That is just after the abomination takes place. The two witnesses dies, and they had a ministry of 1,260 days, and then the woman fled then again into the desert, prepared for by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days, and then Jesus Christ returned. You say nobody knows the day and the hour. Right after the abomination takes place, then Jesus returned. 1,260 days later, Jesus returned. I believe it may be earlier because of the earthquake. There's preparation that takes place, and normally there's 40 days. They call it Tesavu, just before the Feast of Atonement. So it's 40 days from that. Normally happen in the month of August up into September. That is the preparation of Tesavu, and that is a preparation that the Jews will probably undergo when Jesus returns. Yeah, so there is the length of time. 1,260 days plus 1,260 days is 7 year period, people. Not 3.5 years, not 5 months period, as you say. It is for 7 years. 5 years of that period will be a 16-hour day. Oh, that will be hectic. You just out of bed, into work, out of work, into bed, whoop. And no time for social life because the day is very, very short. I don't know if people will still have time to cook in that time. Nevertheless, yeah, so yeah, the 1,290 days is the 1,260 days, except with the 30 days intercalary month added. You can see that just as the 1,299 is simply 1,270 with its lunar lead months of the second Adar. 1,290 is also 430 times 3. Now, from the time of the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that causes a desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. This is from the abomination. That will be 1,290 days until the destruction of the prince. Yeah, you understand. I hope you get it. Hope you understand it. And there's a total of 30 plus 45 days that it will take until the Millennium Kingdom will then start. Now, okay, so this final page we discussed the 1,335 days. Yeah, is both inclusive and exclusive of the 1,290 for a total of 3.5 or 7 years. Blessed is the one who waits for and reads the end of the 1,335 days. And that is, of course, the millennium. Blessed is the one who waits for and reads the end of the 1,335 days. Study Daniel 12 there. Daniel 12 verse 12. Okay, there you have it, folks. And that is the end of the... I did add this note here just at the back that Amos 8:9 takes place on the second... it's not a date. It's not. I don't set a date. It's an actual event over Israel where God says that He will cause the sun to go down in midday at 12 o'clock, and this happened exactly over Israel on the 2nd of August 2027, and that is on the 9th of Av. And we all know what happens on the day of 9th of Av. And even we just passed it now, right now. And we also saw the mass murders that took place in mass shooting that took place in America. And I believe that Jesus will return on that day with the greatest earthquake of all times in Revelation 16. 18, and you can then go through my other videos that explain it all. I'm not going to discuss that here. Well, that's it all, folk. So please do subscribe, press the notification button. I love you all and be blessed.